If you're tired of that cycle, you know the one. You spend a whole Saturday on a deep clean, and by Wednesday, the clutter is already creeping back, then you might be fighting the wrong battle.
You're fighting the mess after it's already there.
Exactly. It's a reactive approach.
Right, and that's precisely what our source materials today suggest is so inefficient. What's fascinating when you look at Japanese household systems is that order isn't about these huge, exhausting efforts. It's about small, really powerful habits.
Habits that stop the mess from even starting.
Yes. The systems are so refined that the home basically starts to manage itself.
And that's the knowledge we're diving into today. This is a deep dive into Japanese habits for a more effortless way of living. We're looking at sources that cover not just physical tidiness, but the whole philosophy behind it.
Things like Kaizen, Ikigai, Mottainai, these are the mental frameworks that make the change actually stick.
So we're aiming for small, repeatable shifts, not some massive life overhaul. The goal is to turn that constant, low-grade chaos into calm.
And we've kind of broken this down into two main parts. First, we'll talk about the mindsets, the intentional boundaries that you need to set up. And then we'll get into the actual physical mechanics that keep a home tidy almost automatically.
Okay, let's start at the front door. Or, more specifically, with what's called the Genkan mindset. Now, the Genkan is that small, often lowered entryway in a Japanese home.
Mhm.
We might just call it a mudroom or a shoe rack, but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a philosophical boundary. It's a ritual space, really. It's where you physically and mentally transition from the outside world into your private, clean space.
And just by taking your shoes off immediately.
You're doing something huge with one tiny action. You stop the vast majority of dirt, dust, germs, all that stuff from ever getting onto your interior floors.
So you're literally saving yourself hours of future cleaning just with that one habit. But I'm thinking about our listeners. What if you live in, say, a small apartment and you don't have a formal entryway?
That's a great question. You create an intentional boundary, even without the architecture. It could just be a dedicated mat by the door, a small bench, maybe a nice basket for shoes.
So it's the ritual, not the specific room.
It's the ritual. The sources emphasize that moment of taking off your shoes reinforces mindfulness. You're signaling to yourself, okay, I'm leaving the chaos and the dirt of the outside world behind me now. It makes cleanliness intentional.
I like that. Intentional, not reactive. So once that physical boundary is set, we need a mental one for our stuff. Which brings us to Mottainai. Now, the rough translation is don't waste, but that feels like it misses the point.
It really does. Mottainai is much deeper. It's rooted in a profound respect for everything. The object itself, the materials it's made from, the labor that went into making it. It's an almost spiritual feeling of regret when something is wasted.
So it's not just about me and my wallet, it's about respecting the entire life cycle of an object.
Exactly. And when you feel that respect, you're just naturally less likely to impulse buy things or hoard stuff you'll never use. The question you ask yourself shifts from, can I afford this, to something more like, am I actually going to use and respect this item, or will it just become clutter?
Okay, so if we use Mottainai as a decluttering tool right now, how do we start?
The sources suggest you tackle it by category. Go through your clothes, for instance. And for every single shirt, you ask, is this item fulfilling its purpose by being worn?
And if it hasn't been worn in, 6 months?
Then it's not being respected in your closet. Donating it, repurposing it, that allows it to regain its function somewhere else. And the natural result is you just have less stuff to manage, which dramatically cuts down on your cleaning time.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so if Mottainai helps us keep only what's necessary, the next step is managing those necessary items. This is where we shift from philosophy into the daily mechanics. Let's start with the famous one-touch rule.
Yes. The sources are so clear on this one. It's a simple idea. Anything you touch, you only handle it once. It's all about eliminating that I'll deal with it later pile.
Which is the source of all evil, really.
It is. It's the root cause of almost all household mess.
Okay, give me a real-world example. I walk in, I grab the mail, I see a bill. My instinct is to toss it on the kitchen counter for later. How does the one-touch rule fix that?
Well, under this rule, putting it on the counter is the failure. That's the moment the system breaks. The first touch has to be the only touch. So you open the bill, and you either file it immediately or put it in your designated to pay folder. Done. One touch.
It's the same with the dish, right? Instead of the sink, it goes straight into the dishwasher.
Or you wash it then and there.
I love the idea, but let's be real. Some days you're just exhausted. You get home from a long day and you just don't have the energy. Does the whole system just collapse then?
That's a crucial point. It's not about being perfect 100% of the time. But the sources suggest that by doing the one-touch action, you're actually saving future energy.
How so?
When you toss your jacket on a chair, just for now, you've just added a task to your mental load. You know it has to be moved again later. But if you hang it up immediately, it takes, 5 seconds? That task is gone from your mind forever. It's a proactive way to reduce mental clutter.
And that one action prevents the pile from ever starting. But that rule only works if the jacket has a hook to go on.
Precisely. Which brings us to the next mechanical system. Dedicated storage for everything. Nothing is homeless.
This feels like a cornerstone.
It is. When every single object, your keys, the salt shaker, a charging cable, has a specific known home, tidying stops being a chore that requires decisions.
It just becomes a reflex.
It's a simple reflex. You just return it to its place. Those messy piles on the counter aren't really a sign of laziness. They're a sign of a broken storage system. The items don't have an address.
So if you buy something new,
you have to assign it a home before it even really enters your living space. And if you can't find a home for it, the Mottainai Mindset should kick in and make you question if you should have it at all.
Speaking of finding space, let's talk about using walls. Japanese homes are often smaller, so they've mastered expanding upward, the vertical storage melcher.
Right. When you're short on floor space, your walls are your best friends. We're talking about shelves, hooks, wall-mounted racks. Think of hanging pots and pans instead of stuffing them in a cabinet.
And the benefit isn't just about efficiency. There's a psychological piece to this too, isn't there?
A huge one. When you lift things off the floors and counters, your sight lines become clear. Your eye isn't constantly tripping over stuff.
And your brain registers that as calm.
Exactly. A small room can feel spacious and serene just by using vertical space wisely.
Okay, so we have our systems, but things still get dirty. We still have to clean. Most of us dread that big, exhausting Saturday cleaning session.
And this is what Japanese households largely avoid by using daily micro-cleaning.
It's like Kaizen for cleaning.
It's exactly that. You're sprinkling tiny 30-second cleaning tasks throughout the day. Wiping down the counter while your coffee brews, wiping the bathroom mirror after you brush your teeth. They're so small they barely even register as work.
But those little efforts compound, like interest in a bank account. You're always maintaining a baseline of clean so you never face a disaster.
You never do. And the best example is in the kitchen with the clean-as-you-go practice.
Right. While the pasta water is boiling, you rinse the cutting board.
While something simmers, you wipe down the splatters. A used spoon gets washed immediately. By the time your meal is ready to eat, the kitchen is already 90% clean.
And that removes all the stress of facing a huge pile of dishes after dinner.
The whole process becomes calmer.
And to wrap up the mechanics, there's one last visual habit that is so striking. Keeping surfaces empty.
This one is all about reducing visual noise. Empty tables, empty countertops. They create an immediate sense of order and make a room feel bigger. Plus, they're incredibly easy to clean.
So if something is out in the open, it has to be intentional.
It has to have a purpose. Either it's functional, like a lamp, or it's decorative, like a single plant. Everything else belongs in its dedicated storage home. It all ties together.
It really does. The rigor you apply to your physical space, the genkan, the one-touch rule, the empty surfaces, that builds the mental muscle for the deeper habits.
Absolutely. We're moving now from the what to the why, from managing your home to how you manage your life.
Let's start with Kaizen. We hear this term a lot, continuous improvement, but the sources define it more as the opposite of a huge overnight change.
Yes. Kaizen is about getting 1% better every day. The improvements are intentionally tiny, so small that there's no friction to doing them. This is the principle Toyota used to revolutionize manufacturing.
Not by redesigning the whole car at once.
But by having engineers find ways to save 1 second on the assembly line or move a tool 2 centimeters closer. Tiny, tiny gains.
So if I want to run a marathon, Kaizen says don't go for a 5-mile run. It says just put on your running shoes today.
Or just stretch for 1 minute. If you want to read more, commit to 1 page, not 1 chapter.
But doesn't that feel, I don't know, kind of pointless?
That's the deceptive genius of it. It's so easy you can't say no. It removes all the mental resistance, and what happens is once you start, you often do more than the 1 page. But the real tower is in the consistency. Over a year, that 1% a day compounds into a massive transformation that a huge failed effort could never achieve.
The goal isn't the big leap, it's to just never stop moving forward, even if it's just a tiny step.
That's Kaizen.
And that provides the engine for improvement. But what's the destination? That brings us to Ikigai, your reason for being.
Your reason to get out of bed in the morning. And in the West, we often see this as a Venn diagram about your career.
Right. What you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for.
And that can be a bit intimidating. What's so interesting in the studies of blue zones like Okinawa is that Ikigai is often found in much smaller daily roles. It might be tending to your garden perfectly, or being the person who organizes the neighborhood festival.
So it's less about a grand professional ambition.
And more about having an active, necessary role in your community. That sense of purpose is what researchers say keeps people vital and engaged, contributing to that incredible longevity. It's the feeling that your life is needed.
And having that clarity of purpose probably makes it easier to maintain all the orderly systems we just talked about.
They feed each other.
So Kaizen is for improvement, Ikigai is for purpose, but what happens when things break? When we fail? That's where Wabi-Sabi comes in.
The acceptance of imperfection. Finding the beauty in things that are temporary and flawed.
Which is such a relief, isn't it? In a culture that's obsessed with perfection, the perfect Instagram photo, the flawless career.
Wabi-Sabi is profoundly freeing. It stops that exhausting chase. It lets you appreciate that a scuff on the floor tells a story, that a wrinkle is a sign of a life lived. It allows you to be sane while also striving for order.
And the perfect physical metaphor for this is kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery, not with invisible glue, but with gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Highlighting the cracks, celebrating the repair.
Making the object more beautiful because it was broken.
This is the philosophical home run. If you apply that to your own life, it completely reframes failure. When you break a setback at work, a personal loss, those experiences don't devalue you.
They become the gold.
They become the gold. They're the proof of your resilience, your healing. Your scars are what make your story valuable, not something to be hidden.
That journey of rebuilding makes you stronger.
Okay, one final habit to wrap this all up. A simple one for physical well-being that reinforces all these ideas. Harahachibu.
A simple rule from Okinawa: eat until you're 80% full.
Which is such a moment of mindfulness, isn't it? You have
Yeah.
to pay attention. You do.
Yeah.
You have to pause and check in with your body. We know the brain takes about 20 minutes to register that it's full. So if you eat until you feel stuffed.
You've already overeaten by about 20%.
Correct. Stopping at 80% is a simple form of calorie restriction that's proven to help with longevity. But more than that, it's practicing that same mental muscle of intentionality. You're choosing to stop, not just continuing because there's still food on the plate.
So this whole deep dive really shows that achieving order and purpose isn't about these massive dramatic efforts. It's about building small, intentional systems, whether that's stopping dirt at the Genkin or stopping overeating with Harahachibu.
In the tidiness of your physical space, your empty counters, your organized shelves, it creates the external structure that supports the internal clarity you need for your Ikigai, for your Kaizen. The whole framework is about intentional maintenance, not a constant cycle of crisis and recovery.
We talked about Wabi-Sabi and Kintsugi, the beauty of mending broken things with gold. So here's something to think about. Consider a recent project, a goal, or maybe even a relationship where you felt like you broke or failed. Instead of trying to hide that crack, what gold can you apply to it? How can that very imperfection be integrated into the stronger, wiser person you are becoming? Mull on that, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.